think we can begin.
Hi. Afternoon, everybody. I'm Ed Jones. I'm your interim executive director. Welcome to a provider conference call. There's a couple things we want to fill you in on. First off, we're recording this, so in the unlikely circumstance that someone wants to listen to it again, there'll be an opportunity to do that. I also want to mention that I want to thank those of you who contributed to the COVID-19 survey. I posted some stuff on the website about the responses to that. The Chief Justice indicates she's really interested in hearing about whether courts are actually observing the rules. I did mention to her that if the court staff isn't ratting out the judges, why would the defense lawyers take that chance? But she has an email that you can send information to, and if you want to send things to me, I can pass them on suitably redacted. So there's that. The other thing, two other things I want to mention. One of our budget notes required us to get our contracting cycle in step with the state's budget cycle. And to do that, we're doing this 6-month hiccup to get things in step. So you're all going to hear from your contract analysts about that extension, which will then put the contracting cycle in step with the legislative budget cycle. Finally, well, not finally, looking at this list, accounts payable. For those of you who submit things through that accounts payable system, there's a big change coming up there. Effective January 1, there'll be one path into that system. It'll be a form that'll be available on the web that'll take you through the process of submitting the information. That it will do the math for you, which will solve a lot of problems, and it will sort of guide you through your particular area of billing, and it should allow your bills to look better to us and us to process them faster. So that's a big step. That takes effect January 1. There'll be much more information coming out over the next couple of months about how to do that. Do take the time to figure it out. It's not that challenging, and it will really improve the process of getting you your money. I also want to mention a couple of personnel issues. Karen Farkas, who was our juvenile head, has departed. The state bar has hired her to do a project for them, so she's gone. Shannon Flowers, who was in our appellate division and who had spent a 1.5 year rotation into the juvenile team recently, is rotating back in. We have some job announcements for positions in that division section out, and so if you're interested in that, you should look at the website and follow up on those. In addition, we finally replaced Bridget Budbill. Bridget, who was our legislative information person, governmental relations, I guess is the technical phrase, she has gone back to the Criminal Justice Commission, and we've hired Autumn Shreve from MDI to take her place. So Autumn carried a caseload at MDI for quite a few years. She's been involved in legislative stuff and OPDS stuff in the past. She'll start Monday as our governmental relations person. All right, that's my announcements. I'm going to turn this over to Aaron, and Aaron's going to talk about HB 5030.
So, hi everyone. My name is Erin Snyder-Severe. I am a Deputy General Counsel at OPDS. And I am going to actually review the same PowerPoint that I gave to the commission for those of you on Tuesday. So for those of you who participated in that meeting, this may be a little bit repetitive. I have just a few little updates since when we spoke to the commission. I want to share my screen. So is everyone looking at the first page to that PowerPoint?
Yes.
Thank you. I'm going to talk both about HB 5030 and also our plans for stakeholder engagement. My goals for this presentation are to do a general overview, high-level overview of HB 5030 and discussing its key deliverables, to give an update about our agency's progress on those deliverables since June, to describe the stakeholder engagement plan and give you some idea of what's coming down from the agency on both of those areas. So as a review here, HB 5030 gave the agency a budget of $321 million plus an additional $18 million in other funds. The 21-23 budget includes specific reorganization expectations to improve agency transparency, program management, and oversight. And as you all are well aware, the legislature held back an additional $100 million, the release of which is contingent on the PDSC showing satisfactory progress towards those objectives. The kind of broad categories of what HB 5030 does is it requires a reorganization of the agency's appropriation and budget structure along business lines. It requires augmenting and reorganizing the agency's internal structure and operations, adding compliance performance functionality. It requires the agency to obtain a comprehensive external financial and performance audit, and requires specific report backs from the agency to the legislature on various topics. So on what is my right hand of the screen, I'm kind of showing what I think are sort of the major goals of what HB 5030 is intended to achieve, which is greater transparency, improved financial controls, better program management, and increased accountability and oversight. So on that first subject, the aligning the appropriations and budget along business lines, this is just a comparison of what our budget buckets looked like in the 2019 to 21 session compared to what they look like now. This has already been implemented. So before there was an appellate division bucket, a contract business services, and then the professional services account. And now it's been divided into appellate, executive, the compliance, audit, and performance function, trial criminal, non-routine expenses, court mandated expenses, juvenile, and administrative services. This is just really to help the legislature and the agency track where money is being spent. So moving on to the augmentation and reorganization of internal structure and operations. One of the big changes is that HB 5030 requires the addition of an internal audit section to be staffed by 2 full-time employees. The internal audit section reports directly to the commission, and its purpose is to conduct internal audits of agency operations and procured services. The PDSC is required to report on the staffing of that position, and the internal audit plans for the 2021 to 23 sessions and the 2023 to 23 bienniums as part of its reporting. And the PDSC will also likely be tasked with creating an internal audit committee, which will review risks identified by our auditors and to direct which audits should be completed. So another change in terms of internal agency structure is the addition of a deputy director position. So the deputy director reports directly to the executive director and serves as the executive director in his or her absence. This position is intended to improve coordination and oversight of the agency's operations. And OPDS filled this position on September 1st with Brian DeForest, who has many years of state service. And Brian oversees the newly constituted Administrative Services Division, which I'm going to show you on this next slide. So this is the Administrative Services Division as it exists today. An important caveat for everyone here is that we are recruiting for a new executive director, as you all know, and we are also building out what the CAP function looks like. And so it's quite possible that these structures may need to change as the agency changes. The high points are that the legislature added a new fiscal analyst position, which I've highlighted there. We are currently recruiting for that position. It also added information technology section, including 3 new information technology specialists and a limited duration operations and policy analyst 2 positions. So the creation of this section was due to be completed by July 1st, 2022. We've hired Jim Conlon as our Chief Information Officer effective September 1st. And we've already staffed the 2 operations and policy analyst positions. Just one more note here is that the data and research positions had already existed within the agency, but they've just been relocated into this section. So they now report, those staff now report to Jim Conlon. So the legislature also required the creation of compliance, audit, and performance functionality in the agency. The core components of what we're calling CAP is the administration of criminal trial, non-routine expenses, court-mandated expenses in juvenile, and quality assurance and control plans for those above listed categories, as well as the appellate division. CAP is charged with developing agency key indicators and performance measures, and the agency is required to present a comprehensive program plan CAP by September 2022. The key performance indicators and measures are due prior to the legislative session in 2023. And the twin goals for CAP are really to ensure that public defense clients are consistently receiving quality services, and to ensure that the agency is at the same time being a good steward of state resources. So the status of CAP. The agency is still working out whether CAP is a standalone division within the agency or a cross-functional team. But we are currently recruiting leadership for the criminal trial and juvenile sections. We also hired the Coraggio Group to assist with organizational design support and development of the CAP division, and to help us with change management and integration of CAP into agency operations. We thought that this help was really helpful. We needed the help because this is a really massive realignment and reorganization within the agency, and we have a short timeline for which to do it, and we wanted to not just get it done, but to do it really effectively and to do it well. So we need to show substantive progress towards that CAP plan in February of 2022. But as I said, the sort of final program plan CAP is not due until September 22. And the agency will be meeting weekly with our LFO to discuss our progress on the CAP division and to seeking guidance on what our key performance measures should look like. So related expectations to CAP, one Director Jones already touched on, which is aligning the contracts with the biennial budget process. and the separation of criminal and juvenile contracts by July 2022. So the goal with aligning the contracts with the biennial budget process is to have predictable expenditures and for the agency to be relying on policy option packages to support more significant changes. The separation of the criminal and juvenile contracting, the goal there is to track the money in those buckets separately. And the agency is still sorting out how best to do that and whether that means separate contracts or whether there are other ways to achieve that goal that would work better. Another task for us was the external audit. So as I said earlier, we are required to have a comprehensive financial and performance audit coordinated and under the direction of the Secretary of State Audits Division and the Joint Committee on Legislative Audits. The audit and the agency's responses are due by September 2022, and the agency recently received direction from the Joint Committee on Legislative Audits just on Tuesday and is now taking steps responsive to that direction. So the next steps for us on that are to consult with the Secretary of State Audits Division and to contract with an outside consulting firm to perform the audit. So as I said in the beginning, there's also very specific reporting obligations that the agency must report on to the legislature by February 2022. Those are all listed here. We need to provide an update on the agency's progress towards meeting expectations detailed in HB 5030 budget notes, provide updated caseload and financial forecasts, update on contracting activities, including contract amendments, alignment of contracts with the biennial budget process and separation of the criminal and juvenile trial level contracts. We also are required to provide updates on hiring, staff turnover, unbudgeted position actions, if any, compensation plan changes, and staff morale. I'm going to turn to stakeholder engagement. As I see it, the stakeholder engagement that the agency is proposing serves three primary functions. One is to fulfill the expectations in HB 2003, which requires the Commission to adopt policies for contracting that, quote, ensure transparency and stakeholder engagement and promote equity, inclusion, and culturally specific representation. A second goal or function of stakeholder engagement is that the Commission is going to engage in strategic planning and will use the input and themes gathered during this engagement process for that purpose to help set agency direction. We're also hoping to use what we do here as a model for how to gather client input for purposes of the work that the compliance, audit, and performance section will be doing for quality assurance. This is just to provide kind of an overview of what our goals are for the stakeholder engagement process. One is to engage not only providers and other key institutional stakeholders, but for the first time in the agency's history to also engage with clients. We want to obtain perspectives of individuals and groups at every touch point of OPDS's service delivery and use this as a vehicle to lift up the perspectives of people who have historically held less power in the system. The stakeholder engagement also includes many loopback opportunities for clarification of the learnings and themes that are surfaced during the process, opportunities to reflect on those, and for continual improvement. And I just want to highlight here that the engagement strategy that we've adopted is aligned with the International Association of Public Participation's core values for equity-centered community engagement. And if anyone is interested in reading those, I have a copy that I can share. So this is kind of the nuts and bolts of what the stakeholder engagement will look like. It's going to involve a comprehensive survey of former clients, providers, and community and institutional partners. Then there will be a series of focus groups to clarify and reflect on the themes that are surfaced through that survey and lift up other perspectives that maybe aren't attainable through the survey. There'll also be meetings with individual key stakeholders. And the proposal includes a proposed public meeting and listening session. And as I said, there's also multiple loopback opportunities when we start engaging in strategic, or the commission starts engaging in strategic planning. I want to be clear that the end of strategic planning does not mean the end of stakeholder engagement. A usable and effective strategic plan needs to have built into it opportunities for reflection on how things are going and whether there's anything that needs to be adjusted or changed. It's a living, working document. So I think that we'll need stakeholder engagement as the plan is implemented. Additionally, there are a lot of areas that we are and will need to continue to engage with stakeholders around outside of a structured strategic planning process. Many of you have participated in our work groups. Also more informally, as we've gathered stakeholder feedback for things like what that new AP invoicing form will look like. Or so around certain specific policies or changes to our procedures. And the reality here is that there's just going to be a lot of changes that will have ripple effects for providers and new challenges that we'll have to figure out how to address. And we will need to bring people in and along with us as we figure out how best to deal with those changes and challenges. So I'm going to show a timeline. This is an incredibly ambitious timeline. It's short term. It's not inclusive of the entire stakeholder engagement process. It's just showing really the next couple months. This is incredibly ambitious for the agency. So I would just kind of soften your reliance on those exact dates as being important, but really looking at the structure of what the stakeholder engagement process will look like. This illustrates what I just described. And as I said, that's not the end of the conversation. There's opportunities for loopbacks once that strategic planning work begins. That is all I have, so I can be open for questions.
All right, I'm back. We've got a new procedure on questions we're intending to implement, which is to say we'd like to get the questions in advance, simply because in the past, many of the questions required us to look up or know things that were not spontaneously knowable. So it would be of great assistance to us if we could see the questions ahead of time and have some facts to answer them. And also some questions are very case or provider specific and frankly are better answered other than with 50 other people. That said, what questions do we have today?
I see a hand raised by Alcott, but I don't know if I'm seeing everyone.
Well, let's start with Alcott Thompson.
Thank you. For those who don't know, I am the head of Marion County Association of Defenders. A couple questions, one that relates directly to that, which is NREs. About 2 years ago, they got approvals of them or denials, got way behind, and the analysts came in on a holiday, got them all caught up. They remained caught up. Essentially, we were getting approvals or denials within a couple days. Now it seems to be dragging out again. We're looking at about a week. What's the plan on that? Because it delays us being able to get people to help our clients.
Well, it's a good question. I'll find out the answer. I don't know what has caused the slowdown.
Thank you. And certainly I will ask that earlier next time if it's still around. Do want to thank the agency for sending out the proposed online invoices. I provided some feedback. I think there were some issues, and I think hopefully they're going to get straightened out. The other question, Ed, was there was a memo sent out, if I remember right, about July, indicating that on from the accounts payable that you were back to, if you will, normal payments. And my question is, what are normal payments in that immediately prior to that? We were ultimately the agency was pushing 30 days, 30 calendar days. I mean, it was real rare if you were billing monthly that you'd get a payment before you sent in your next bill. And that seems to be about where it is now. But a couple years ago, we were getting paid within about 15 calendar days. So just what is normal?
Well, normal's where we are right now, which is not to say that we don't intend to do better. And I have some goals for that payment time, which I will not reveal to all of you. That would be foolish until we get there. But part of the next after the AP form is the NRE form, which will also improve your ability to get those in a standard fashion and our ability to get them paid. That's still a ways away, but the AP form is the guinea pig, and thanks for participating in the testing. And once it's up and running, we've already started talking about how the NRE process will work, and that's next. Ultimately, we're going to improve our back end on the data processing, and I expect that to improve things as well. But I'm not going to commit to anything less than the 30 days we're doing now. I'm confident we can keep that up, and I expect to do substantially better than that as time goes on.
Thank you. I just wanted to know what normal was today. We live in very abnormal times. Appreciate
Yes.
the work. Thank you.
You had a third one, or that's good? Who's next?
Those are the two questions and the compliment on the online invoices.
Thanks. I see a hand up, but I don't know the name. Go ahead. Patricia. But you're muted.
Thank you. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. I am a transcriber. I have been transcribing since 1978, and I did not see this clearly come up in this discussion. I only heard about this conference 20 minutes before it began. So we have not had a pay raise in our per page rate for, I believe, 27 years, in spite of all other levels of cost of living having gone up 68 to 100%. This is something that all of we transcribers would like to have addressed. Even a 25 cent a page per page rate would be very useful to all of us to be able to afford to pay our health insurance, or every single cost we have. I have been writing a letter to Eric. Who am I writing it to? Dietrich.
Yes.
And I will fill in some more information for him. But this is a big concern for all of us transcribers, and I'd like to have it addressed.
We've heard from Katie Bradford and Brenda and others about that situation, and we are going to take a look at where we are compared to the court and other people who order transcripts, and also what it turns out we're actually paying everybody. So we are going to sort through that and come to some conclusions about it in the near future. I can't promise that. I mean, unfortunately, I wish there were more money around, but we're working to get everybody a little more money. And there has been some success at that, although I agree that you guys have been the tail of the dog. So we will take a look at that. and get back to all of you about where we stand and compared to everybody else and what we can afford to do. So thanks
Okay.
for the question, and we're on it.
Thank you, Mr. Jones.
Next question. Stunned to silence. All right. Well, not seeing any other questions, I'm going to thank you all for your participation. See you next month. You're going to be getting emails about the invoice procedure and probably about a lot of other things. We're posting more things on our website. So our goal is to have something new and interesting up there every Friday. So do take a look at it, and thank you for the work that you do and the patience you display. Take care.